السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري ويشرك في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين. آمين. والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين.
Okay.
Now let's, So write it down first.
We have the chat box open for those who are watching this live stream. So if you have any questions, you can just type it in and we will be able to see them.
Okay.
And we can just send a hello message, so they can see where the chat box is.
Yep.
All right. So we are reading from the Seedbed of the Light. We are on part 23 of the Book of Creation. This is going to be page 9 for us, and we are in the middle of we will be starting from the paragraph in the middle of the page. The Quran establishes this argument when mentioning creation and invention, and confirms that only God, the One, has creative power. Causes are only veils before the divine power and its grandeur, to prevent the mind from drawing wrong conclusions about the all-holy divine being by seeing with a superficial view the hand of his power involved in mundane affairs. Causes are only veils before the divine power and its grandeur, to prevent the mind from drawing wrong conclusions about the all-holy divine being by seeing with a superficial view the hand of his power involved in mundane affairs.
How did you jump into the Quran now? How did you come? Why do you take the Quran seriously? Well, why Quran? Why not anything else? What have we been doing now? Let's go make a very, very short summary of what we have been doing.
Sure. At least for last week, we were discussing how, for one thing, for example, we can't say there is creation and there is God or the source of existence. Rather, there is creation, therefore there must be a source of existence. The therefore then, because of my observation and seeing of the universe, therefore there must be a source of existence of the universe. We also discussed how anything that is subject to time and space, for example, is not essential in its existence. It must be dependent. Therefore, it cannot be the source of its own existence or the point of origin, if you will. And I guess one last point that I remember from last week was how so we observe order within the universe, or what we label as order, but within this order there's constant change. So the parameters for which things happen constantly change, but the outcome is still the same, in the sense that, for example, while following the same order, one moment of existence is never identical to another moment So there is no repetition in my observation of things coming into existence from one moment to the next.
The constant renewal. Constant renewal. We emphasized on the importance of not continuous renewal, but constant renewal. Yeah, okay, we have been doing that. And we said there are two evidence for the necessity of the existence of an eternal and absolute being. And we have been studying the second one, and this is the third. Do you remember? Does anybody remember? What was the first and the second and the third? I don't have my paper with me. Page 8. Do you have the page 8? So
The fourth proof.
that is the third. The fourth will follow.
Oh, yes.
So the creation itself, we said the creation itself is the witness to its source, that the source has to be an absolute being. And the second one is, we said we are not going to study that one. That is, somebody proclaims that idea, which are called prophets. They say that it's not from us, but this is not our subject. The third, there is a book, but not necessarily that this book is to be the Quran. Any book which claims to be divinely inspired, they are called what? Scriptures. So particularly the author chooses the Quran. For example, the Quran, for any reason, but particularly this is the almost in our human history, the latest source which claims to be the source of the speech of the source of creation. It means divinely inspired. So we have to listen to it. Well, this is just taking one example. It could have been another one, depending on the cultural circumstances. And let's say what the Quran says, just an example of the claim of a scripture. What the scriptures main and particularly claim, all of them. So what the Quran, now we are here, what the Quran says about this source of existence. It means how we can explain the existence of anything in particular or the universe generally. How do we explain? What's the suggestion that we receive from this source? So what does it say here in this paragraph? That's why we came to the Quran now. There will be another point of reference for human beings. That is, we are going to study the fourth proof, but we have not reached there yet. We will, either today or tomorrow, whatever, or next week. So what does this paragraph says? Paragraph you read. What does it say? Yeah.
Yeah. So in order to read it backwards, I guess, in order for me not to draw up wrong conclusions, I observe that there seems to be things that are apparently there are things that seem to be the apparent cause of something else. But should I further reflect and question this, then I can see that the what comes about from those apparent causes shows that those apparent causes cannot actually be in reality the causes. They don't possess the qualities to bring into existence what I would originally labeled as the effect.
Why do you call it apparent?
I guess that's coming from a certain perspective, but what I would first, for example, there's a seed, and then there's water, sunlight, soil, right? So in my initial interaction with the seed, from my initial reaction, I say the sun seems to be, or the soil and the water seem to be bringing into effect the growth of the seed. But upon further contemplation or questioning the qualities that I see within the growth of the flower or the seed, I say that they cannot be, because there are, for example, you need the quality of consciousness, of power, manifested in the sun and the soil and all the elements that seem to be working together to bring about the seed, in order for the seed to come about.
Now we will of course continue to read and discuss the matter, and we will see one interesting concept that the paragraph has is only we can attribute the existence of anything to a thing which has creative power, on the second line, which has creative power. What does it mean? Creative. What does it?
To bring something into existence, to create from something from non-existence to existence.
Something not from, we said we cannot bring something into existence from nothing. We discussed this, do you remember? So what did we say there?
I mean, that would be illogical, like there's nothing and are we bringing something into existence? So
out of nothing, it
right.
doesn't make sense because it is nothing. Nothing, it doesn't exist. But instead, we said we have to coin another expression. Do you remember somebody?
Essential and
Sorry?
was it essential and
No.
no.
Rather than saying creating, giving existence to something from nothing, we said
without prior existence.
It means the phrase we coined, actually. You can say it another way, as you said, without prior existence, but we coined a phrase which said creating something which did not exist before as far as our experience is concerned. So we didn't see that, but it is here now. For example, give me an example. Anyone? Give me an example.
Brown.
Brown is human made, so it makes it more complicated. So from the nature, as we call it.
The leaves of the tree outside, they weren't here.
So a leaf. So but a leaf existed yesterday, didn't it? Yeah. How can you say that it is brought into existence while it didn't exist before? It did exist before, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
No, it
Last
didn't.
week, the smaller version.
No, it didn't.
Not the same, not the very same
yeah.
way.
So any change is a new existence, necessarily. Why? Similarity doesn't mean exactness. So we see in the universe not a repetition. There is no repetition in the universe.
But what about sunrises and sunsetting? Isn't that a repetition?
No, with a different sunrise, different sunset every day, if you like, if we speak it in terms of day. So, but we said we have to understand the creation somehow in a complete sense. We cannot really use imitative language. right? By saying that, okay, the Quran claims this and we approve it. No, no, it doesn't work. It used to work 1,000 years ago. Now it doesn't work. So we don't take already existing somebody's assumption in the form of belief as really a confirmation of one's belief. As assumption is not belief. It must be so. It must be so, not necessarily that logically confirmable and humanly acceptable and digestible in human sense. In the human sense, cannot get satisfied with it because I accepted something, found that in my culture. So we said cultural religion, cultural claim to believe does not work anymore. So we should leave these claims aside. Somebody may claim it, none of my business, but it is when I am developing an argument which will the result of which will satisfy me, I have to develop the argument for myself, which is consistent or which sounds consistent for myself without any prior requirement for it. So that is what the age is. So we cannot really use the general public's belief, saying that, oh, you are good people, you are believers, so when you follow Islam, mashallah, or this kind of language doesn't work anymore. New generation hates it. We have to understand. New generation questions. Every new generation questions. But if they cannot find the answer, we have to understand the psychology. This is your subject. If they cannot find the satisfactory answer, what they do, they said, everybody around me, grown-ups, elderly people, or some people with titles, with religious titles, say, it really makes sense. I thought about it, I am satisfied. So you should take my word. It doesn't work. But how it works, it recycles the same imitation generation by generation if someone confirms. But nowadays, it never works. It will never work from now on because the universe, or not the universe, really, the life of the people has undergone a drastic change, which is a very rapid change, very drastic change, and fundamental change, which is the culture became universal. We have to understand that. Within the universal culture, what is in the air, if you like, what is generally accepted nowadays are two things, the generally accepted. One, either science speaks the truth or religion speaks the truth. What happened historically? We have to understand that religion has been repeating itself for at least 1,100 years. Yeah. After the 14th century, repetition started in Muslim world. How about in Christian world? They are almost in the same, but further than that, after the 3rd century, Christian century, 300 actually, 4th century, you know, this famous council. Is it council or council? It's famous. Yeah, but council or council, they understand the Pope or the people get together, religious people get together, and they decided that they have set of belief system. It means creed system, yeah, in the council. council, I think. I don't know, I'm confusing. Council. Since then, their brain also becomes stagnant. And after the 14th century, 13th century is in the Muslim history, Muslims' brain also became frozen, stagnant, repetition. Jewish history didn't have any argument about fundamental belief system of Judaism, because their main concern was something else. It means rules and the lineage, which means race. The children of Israel, they call it children of Israel. So children of God, race. Keeping this race in a community which is solidly established and strongly supporting each other. It became a race religion. After the introduction of Islam to Jewish scholars, they started talking about their belief system, but it wasn't in the main core of their concern. So they didn't develop any understanding of God, for example, how you define God. They don't have the definition of God, apart from simply saying that God is the creator. That's it. So this repetition, as far as, since we are talking about the Quran, as far as the Islamic tradition and other monotheistic religion, the tradition of the monotheistic religions followed the same pattern or fall into the same pattern of reasoning within themselves, which is our previous scholars have thought, decided this is the Muslim creed, or this is the Christian creed, and or this is the Jewish creed, right? And we kept repeating the same creed without any further investigation according to the data that a new age brought to us. We didn't do that. We ignored the data. We kept repeating it, especially in the Islamic education institutions, madrasa system. They just learned previous scholars' thoughts. And the previous scholars stopped talking about belief matters. Why? Because belief matters caused a lot of confusion, therefore conflict within the community. So they said, okay, avoid it, accept it. They put a title, we are following tradition A, and other people put another title, said we are following tradition B. Yeah, usually known in the Muslim community as Sunnites and Shiites. So, or another, maybe third option was Sufi tradition. So Sufi tradition combines the Sunnite and Shiite tradition together. So they don't really make the distinction there, but Sunni and Shia tradition bases mostly their argument on political conflict. So mainly political conflict. That's why the political conflict reflected on their understanding of the interpretation of the religious matters, especially creed matters. So we have to understand this. While this repetition and admiration of the previous generation was going on in the institutions, religious education institutions, of course, there was a very important process also. The women, half of the nation, were subjected to excluding from education system. So great Muslim women scholars extinct after the third or fourth century. For this study of any matter were mainly based on women, because the men were out, women were the people of science or education. After the fourth century, there is the historical reasons, the political reasons, and the interference of the Turkish culture into after Abbasi. So this patriarchal culture, how do you say, patriarchal culture, patriarchal culture. So they discarded from education system gradually. First, they separated. Then they said you have to do it in your home, not in public place. Then, for example, after Selçuk and Ottoman, madrasa system were completely closed to women. Half of the nation were subject to death. They became dysfunctioning. It was the most important mistake that these people made.
They were existing before?
Of course, all the scholars, great scholars, were women before, mostly women. But they wrote the books under their son's name or male name. So but there are special studies about it. Huge publications came out about the Muslim scholars, but they mostly belong to the first 3 or 4 centuries of the Islamic history.
Why do you prefer under another?
Because they wanted to hide their femininity, not to expose to people, whatever. But that's why they are not known. For example, the famous, Imam Shafi's scholar was a woman, teacher was a woman. Yeah. So we understand that they were taking education from women because they didn't have any responsibility about family, taking care of the family and family responsibility. Men used to be busy in the market. Women had nothing. Nowadays, women have lots of furniture and to look after and be slave of it now. For who cares? Living in one room only, mostly. So the whole family lives in one room.
I heard people talking about how women were also huge financiers of education as well.
Yeah, but after they were excluded from the education system, they recompensed their sense of guilt by establishing foundations. They call it pious foundations, religious foundations. In Arabic, Awqaf or Qudrul Awqaf of Waqf. Yeah. So, but they didn't have the opportunity to, because it is excluded from the community as an institution for women education. There was no women education institution anymore. Now, while this dramatic, how do you say, negativity was going on in the religious side, what happened after the destruction of the Abbasid period of Islamic history? The science slowly shifted to the Westerners' attention. So went to Spain, the scientific studies shifted their place because Baghdad, the center of scientific study, were destroyed completely by the barbarian Turks. So they had to move to Spain, and then establish their own institutionalized administration state there, and they developed their scientific studies there. But the European people European culture, became familiar and also in contact with Spain. It is just an extension of Europe, next to Europe, attached to Europe. So religious institutions in Europe started sending new students to Spain to learn what these Muslims were doing there. So they found out that, oh, they are really investigating the world in such a way. Hold it up. So hold up, and make a note. Make a note. Okay, good, please. So
at that time, scientific studies and religious studies were together being studied by these women, right? Women scholars in Islam.
Women, you mean?
Yeah, women scholars.
No.
Whatever, any scholar.
No, women scholars were mostly concentrated on religious studies. Yeah, but later on, okay, let's go to Spain now. So the Spain became the center of scientific studies. Then Europeans took it, but they took it only for worldly purpose. It means material development. They, if you like, stripped off the religious aspect of scientific study, make it only material development. For example, the famous example, a very well-known example, when the gunpowder, were used in China as an entertainment. They took it and turned later on, of course, not at the beginning, later on, after the colonialization historical period, they took it and turned it into weapon to kill people. That's the materialist mentality, egocentric hegemony. Turn it into. So because they were interacting with this Eastern culture, with the colonization period, and they exploited it. Anyways, since then, this scientific, so-called scientific study shifted its place into materialist people's civilization. They are and they have been, they were and they have been still continuing to renew, to develop scientific study and to justify their philosophy behind these scientific studies. So they kept refreshing their mind. Whereas in the religious side, for example, in madrasa system, they started with isagogy, the famous isagogy, with Aristotelian logic, until they completely reached their dead end in 1920s. They kept teaching the same isagogy, same logic, classical logic. That's it. And it is just not the training of the logic, but transferring the information. But what the logic book says, memorizing it. Memorization was the only way for the Muslim scholarship to be a great scholar. The more you memorize from the ancient sources, the greater your scholarship is. That was the understanding. So what happened now, because religious thought became frozen, stagnant, but the opposite idea, which uses the universe in order to justify materialistic interpretation of the world existence, renewed, refreshed, updated themselves. But In religion, there was no update as far as, especially in everything, in hadith studies, in science, in fiqh studies, and Quran commentary on the Quran, exegesis of the Quran. For example, you see a man now, generally speaking, and up to 20th century. If a person wants to write a commentary on the Quran, what did they do? Bring all the old books and select from among them. And so the usage of one's rationality became a matter of blame. So we have to understand this. Why? How can you reason about our most sacred book, the Quran? Most sacred book, the Bible, depending on that side of the monotheist religions, and the sacred book of the Torah. Human mind is a very, very dangerous word they use. Human mind is limited, whereas scriptures are coming from infinite source. A limited one cannot understand the infinite. So what is left? We have to be very careful about this process. What is left?
Imitation.
Sorry?
Imitation.
Copy paste. Imitation. Since Quran says so, it must be so. Since Bible says so, it must be so. That is most devout attitude of the follower of the religion. That's called loyalty to religion, loyalty to the source. So questioning and understanding the source, especially defining the nature of the source, were forgotten. What is the Quran? When you say this is the speech of God, God is speaking to whom? To me. Do you think God is stupid to speak to me in a way that I cannot comprehend at all? Human mind cannot comprehend. Yeah, if you see a teacher, let's say the college teacher, professor, goes to the primary school and speaks to them not within their own level, within their own capacity. How do you call this teacher? Tell me, stupid. So we didn't make this. Yes, the source is speaking. The source may claim to be the eternal one, but let me see whether it's the eternal one or not. Because what is expected of this eternal one to speak to me within my capacity that I can understand. That is literally literally existed in wisdom culture, which is condescension of God to speak to human beings. In Arabic term is, you must know it. Do you know it? In Arabic, tenazzulat, condescension, coming to the level of human beings and speaking to them within their own human beings, but the source is eternal, but the addressee has its own capacity. The source, eternal source, must speak to the addressee's capacity in order to educate his capacity, or the addressee's capacity, student's capacity. So human beings are the students of the Quran, guidance from the Quran, teachings of the Quran, and the teacher may be a super professor, let's call it. But I expect the super professor to speak to me in order to educate me, in order to upgrade my understanding from the previous position to the next position. Why the education system works this way. Yeah. You start from the first year of the college, and then the second, third, fourth, and then start your graduate studies, etc. So at every level you develop, but because of this accusation of the human mind as being limited, they cannot open themselves. The community couldn't open themselves that I can benefit from the Quran more and more if I question it. So questioning the Quran became blasphemy, denial, as if don't you trust the Quran? Huh? Quran is the word of God, man. What do you do? What are you doing? It was the blame could ever dare to challenge. They did. We have to understand this background. So we have to come to our own responsibility by saying that, look, in order to understand what the Quran says, the first thing I have to define what the Quran is. There are thousands, even really more than 10,000, 15,000 recorded name of the complete tafsir, commentary on the Quran made. So it is more than 15,000. Not the partial commentaries. Partial commentaries are not counted. I had a book, but I left it somewhere and disappeared. It was really somewhere around 800 pages or something, just listing the names of the completed exegesis on the Quran in the Muslim world. Just listing the names. 600 pages of the book. I hated it. It was prepared by someone. Anyways, so.
But as you said, they must be just a repetition of others, right?
In general.
In general.
They may add something not updating to the requirements of the age. That's why studying meta became something not sacred, mundane. Dealing with the word became mundane in the minds of the people, the Muslim community. So mundane means not sacred, it is not worth it. It means. So from one aspect, reasoning was imprisoned, denied. From another aspect, dealing with the matter became dirty, mundane, not sacred. So what happened? The whole arena was left to materialist people studying the matter. Isn't that the case? Don't you find it now? What's happening in the world? As far as all the religions are concerned, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Shintoism, whatever the religions of those sources which say that we are going to respond to demand or the desire, the need of human senses, all of them says that I'm going to speak to your human side. These are called religions. But legitimate or not legitimate is not our concern now. Anybody who spoke in terms of religion claimed that I am addressing to your senses. But while they are addressing the human senses, they ignore that this sense is inevitable close contact through the body. This is the reality of our creation. They forgot this. They ignored this. But you are in contact with the world. But for example, in Judaism and Islam, not Christianity and other religious traditions, the contact with the matter of human beings were, it is very important, were reduced to fiqh law principles. And these are to be imitated because they are set. You can update it, but you cannot update your relationship with the universe as far as your intellectual side of it is concerned, sensual side of it is concerned. For example, if you, let's say there is a rule about merchandising or trading. So the trading conditions changed. They updated the trading conditions, but never questioned or never updated their relationship with the universe as far as their intellectual understanding is concerned. It stopped. So interpretation of the creation was left to materialist world view. All the civilizations which hold the materialist world view. So they were free to interpret the universe as they like. No challenge. Christianity wanted to challenge in a stupid way, irrational way, saying that this is what the text says. The universe must be acting according to what the text says, because it is the creator's text. So any interpretation contrary to the literal understanding of the text, interpretation contrary to the literal understanding of the text, were rejected, and literal understanding of the text were repeated or kept alive. So this phenomenal language of the scripture, do you understand this term, phenomenal language of the scripture? When you speak to a child, what do you do? If a subject is a little bit subtle, what do you have to do? You have to give an example. But this example has to be at the level of the capacity of the child. So the child sees the sun rising from east, setting in the west. So they said, you see, the sun is moving, right? You are not going to say and teach that the change in the universe is constant by saying that, no, sun doesn't turn, but earth revolves. Because how? We are fixed here. Earth is not. Phenomenal means how the phenomena are, how the things are as we see it. Human capacity sees it. So the scripture's language were phenomenal language. It means how the addressee, the human beings, experience it without requiring any further education to understand how the things are working in reality. Because the purpose of the scripture is what? To teach that the movement cannot happen arbitrarily, by chance. There is an order in the movement, and the order requires conscious choice. Whether the sun moves or earth moves, does it matter? Because your subject is movement. So speaks to the level of the addressee. You can understand that, it is not the sun, but the earth. Okay, still you have to explain the movement. How do you explain the existence of the movement you are experiencing within this universe? That is the question. So, appropriate to the purpose of the creation, purpose of the teaching, scripture took phenomenal language. And it is, we have to be very careful now. We have to be extremely careful here altogether. Yeah? The subject is phenomenal, but the examples are given according to the historical context of the first generation of the revelation. Look, the first. It doesn't mean that it has to be this, only the addressee of the Quran. It means first generation cannot be the only addressee of the Quran. But the examples are given to them as a guideline. We have to be very careful here altogether. Really, it's a very backbone of everything. As a guideline that teaching human beings that if you want to teach any reality, you have to teach within the capacity of your addressee. That is the wisdom. The scriptures speak in this way. You understand? For example, now I am speaking to these people, right? But it's a general speech, but I am addressing first to these people and giving the example by giving all the examples according to the requirements of the historical context of the first generation. What do you have to do? If you are speaking to the second generation, you have to apply it, adjust it to the historical context of the second generation. Now, we are, I don't know which generation, 1400 divided by 4, 28, 40, 56, 57, 58th generation. If we take that every 20, 30, 25 years is a period of new generation. So how did I say? 60. 58th generation, we have to adopt the addresses according to the requirements of the historical context of 21st century. We ignored this. We didn't do that. So what we have to do it by starting with defining the Quran exactly what it is. Now, saying that Quran is the word of God is a definition? No. Why? It is just a claim. Yeah? Can you prove that it is the word of God? Because God is not of the nature of the universe, so we cannot bring into the equation and saying that this word is coming from this source, which is God. I cannot do that. So this is not the definition of the Quran. We have to understand that. But we may conclude that is conclusion, not the definition. So definition is, what is this book claims to be is that I am the speech of the creator of the universe, your creator, all human beings. So I have said, really, do I need to be created so that I need a creator? Am I really created? So we start reasoning from there. So how can I explain my existence, therefore the existence of another things, right? So I have to start from there, which is also very Quranic, which is also applicable to the method of the Quran, which is, Quran says, first you have to say what? The creation cannot give existence to itself. How do you phrase this in the language of the Quran? Who will remind me? Creation cannot be the source of its own existence. Sorry? La ilaha. Without la ilaha, you cannot go further at all. So we have to count and study the matter, whether that is the subject of this paragraph, whether the matter can be the source of existence of itself, right? So we have to question this. Now, in order to be able to question the source of existence of matter, by asking the question to the matter itself, can you create yourself? Right? So we have to start from there. So can you create yourself? The matter needs to be studied, analyzed. So we have to go into what nowadays is called scientific research, whether the matter can be the source of existence of itself. Now, the text says, read the first paragraph, first sentence of the paragraph we read today.
The Quran establishes.
Slowly. Quran establishes means first claims for us, then we will understand that it is an establishment, really true. When we are able to confirm it, we will say establishment. Otherwise, that's what it claims. Okay, we can read it. The Quran claims.
The Quran claims this argument when mentioning creation and invention.
Of course, the author is very speaking very precise here. He put the word there, invention. Now, it is an explanation of what creation is. Further explanation. Creation, be careful. When you say creation, you should mean invention. Right? You should mean invention. Do you understand the difference between creation and invention? In fact, creation is invention. But we are loosely relating ourselves, understanding of ourselves, to the word creation as if taken for granted. It is created, finished. No, it is invented. It means, be careful, we come back to the beginning of our discussion. It did not exist before, it exists anew now. So the leaf, you gave the example of leaf. The leaf is invented anew now with its new form of existence. If we don't take notice of it, you cannot claim any belief in anything, any God, anything. Everything is an invention anew at every moment.
But isn't that repetition the newness thing? Like
Nuance, did you say?
the newness of things, like everything is a new
Newness, I
yeah,
think.
the newness of things, isn't that a repetition?
No, it's not a repetition, invention.
Okay.
Any invention.
But there's no repetition, yours.
Is there? Can anybody show anything exactly the same as it occurred in existence prior?
No.
So that everything is invention at every moment. Must be. And so this, of course, we know that in as this interpretation of existence developed in Europe from stage 1 stage to stage 3. Nowadays, stage 3 is the valid understanding, doesn't matter, but the static universe in the 14th century turned it into relative universe. Relative universe turned it into continuously changing and renewing universe. Quantum studies of the quantum. So this development shows that human beings are becoming more and more aware of the nature of the creation, is that it is ever renewed, ceaselessly, with no cessation. It can stop, renewed. So we have to understand that this is what invention is really. So we are facing now invention in the universe at every moment. So how are we going to explain it? Yeah, this is the question, fundamental question. Because we have to understand matter before we understand God. So if we fail, if human mind fails to explain the existence of matter, then we have to look for a solution because matter exists. But I cannot explain the existence of matter. I have to find a solution. That's what human mind forces human beings to go further questioning. Right? Okay. That is reality now. We should stop imitating. We have to question. We should stop speaking to people which keep imitating their inherited culture in the name of religion. Otherwise, what is the cost of it? The cost of it is very, very expensive, unbearable. Especially when we speak like we speak here in public. Now, it is publicized on YouTube. So when you speak publicly, you should know that people who are innocently questioning, we have to be very careful, innocently questioning whether materialistic interpretation of the universe is correct or the alternative religious interpretation is correct. What do they do nowadays? Because we have to update ourselves according to the conditions of our historical context, that is Sunnah of the Quran as well. So the context says everybody will go to social media. And the most popular social media is video. Video is the YouTube videos. So they say, let's see what the Muslims say, what the believing people say. Let's take Christians say, Jews say, Buddhists say, and Muslims say, well, this is another alternative. Yeah, well known. This is the age. Everybody knows that there is those people who have the access to YouTube knows that such a religion, which is called Islam, exists. Now, this is our reality. So let me say what the Muslims say as well. They click on what? Your YouTube. You are speaking to Muslim people in a closed circle. But he says, that is YouTube publicized. It means open to everyone. Okay. You want to console the traditional religion and make the traditional followers of the religious tradition and make them feel pleased with your youth program. This young guy happens to be watching your video and trying to see this is the Muslim view. Does it make sense? Yeah, for the Muslim audience, not because it makes sense, because they already resigned from using their reasoning, questioning. So they are just imitating. Imitating people will be very pleased with hearing that, oh, what I accepted is also confirmed by the knowledgeable people, the teacher, the speaker, the imam, the priest, etc. Oh, that there is nothing more or near, nothing more to investigate. That's my belief is correct. They feel consoled, comfortable. But the new generation listens to it. They say, Quran says this, but they hear that. Quran says this. That's why we have to do that. And we have to understand in this way, imitation of the Quran without reasoning. He says, these people are crazy. And they just kept saying that Quran says that. Why do you take Quran? Quran is our sacred book. But it doesn't make anything because it doesn't satisfy me what you said. Questioning people are becoming more and more inclined to atheism, septic, become septic. And religion Doesn't make sense. So you are a person who opens itself to public. Yeah. So social media. Immediate pleasure is there while he's speaking to Muslim population or the believing population or what. They don't know what they are believing. They just follow the culture. Christians follow Christian culture, Muslims follow Muslim culture, Jews follow, Buddhists follow their. Yeah. So while we are pleasing, pacifying their sense of satisfaction. Oh, you are the best. You are the best. So don't question, don't disturb the minds of innocent people. Yeah, general public who claim to be Christians or Muslims, whatever the tradition they follow. And the new generation says it doesn't make sense because it's not logically consistent. They take it for granted without any reason. That's our religion, isn't it? Yeah, we fast in Ramadan. What's wrong with it? Allah says, doesn't it? Doesn't He say in the Quran that we have to fast in Ramadan? Oh, so that's what we fast. Fasting is good for me, but the reason is Quran says so. It says these people are crazy. Christians are crazy. So the only alternative is what? Ever renewing itself and trying to explain the matter within the circular happenings law, they call it, of the nature seems to be consistent. Why? Because they don't refer to any taken for granted point of reference. They say we have to reason, we have to investigate, we have to work on matter, how it works, and we have to find out how it works. They say, at least they are open-minded. Religious people are not open-minded. So while we are pacifying and satisfying the Muslim audience, we are making the new questioning new generation, driving them into, forcing them into atheism, materialistic worldview. This responsibility is unforgivable to me. So we should decide never use any pre-accepted concept in our argument at all. So the people who already claim to hold the religious perspective may not like you, will not like you because you are forcing them to think as well. They don't like it. They want to live within their comfort zone. They feel comfortable there. Look what the preacher or imam or priest or rabbi says, that's what I know. Nothing new for me to learn. I'm comfortable now. Okay, but which kind of life they live? They follow rules of religion, but they don't have any rationally convinced understanding of the purpose of existence at all. Just imitation. Imitating the rules. I'm done my religious duties. What else do you want? If I strongly believe in a religion, what am I expected to do? To do what the religious duties are, which are rituals. I'm doing the rituals. What else do you want me? This is the ultimate aim, to perform the rituals with no base. So what happened now? The tradition first, if you go back to the very, very, very beginning of the emergence of Islam, as soon as Islam was completed by the prophetic mission, what happened? People started arguing about the belief matters. But we have to understand another, I'm speaking a lot, I know that, but it's needed. We have to understand the historical background. Why the scholarship shifted from questioning belief matters into establishing fiqh rules. because as soon as Islam emerged in a certain area, which is called Arabian Peninsula, so especially the Central Arabian Peninsula, which is called Hijaz region. In the Hijaz region, Islam emerged there, and it happened that it's not our subject. It established an administrative body, which is called Medina administration. Yeah, it wasn't a state, it's administration. Just a kind of administering the society they are living in. So this Medina administration announced that human beings are equal. The universe is created by God. They know it. Now, universe is created by God. They know it. They knew it. But human beings are equal. There is no superpower. There is no superiority because of your wealth, because of your lineage, because of your social status. The slaves and the masters are equal. It's very appealing for the one who are slaves or inferior position, socially inferior positioned, lower status in economics and social status in the society. And these were the majority of the community. So it was appealing. So the Quran also, Islam also taught, help anyone who needs in the society, have a societal consolidation between you. Don't disregard anybody who has a lower status in the society. Treat them equally. It's very human. So we have to understand, not because of the Tawheed teachings of the Quran, but social, the subjects, teachings of the subject, which are socially contexted, appeal the wider geographies around it. So the people started paying attention to this newly emerging administrative body in Medina. They said, there is somebody or some people saying that we are equal. We shouldn't be slaves anymore. Yeah, we are equally created by the same creator God. The concept of God existed there. So the people started feeling very close to this administrative body. Of course, the super rulers of every community uses the power of whom? General public. The soldiers consist of general public. So if the general public didn't support the commanders of the army, what happens? They don't obey. They just join the opposite army. Or during Iran, for example, exhibition of Omar, what happened? People shifted to no wisdom, not because of Tawheed. They didn't know about Tawheed. The main teachings of the Quran were, we have to understand this, overshadowed by social context. So these people wanted to become a member of newly emerging society, which is also claiming to be a religion. Okay, that's why not. If it is a religion, I agree with it. Why not? Make it a note. Further, man, stand up, man. You are a young man. You are not an old. Okay. Okay. You feel comfortable now. It's distracting. I know it is distracting. So, these people joined in huge numbers to the Medina administration. And Medina central administration has to take care of their social needs. The Medina administration couldn't teach them the fundamentals of Islam, but rather social subjects and ethical subjects, moral subjects. So they wanted to come and join us, the huge number. What was the number of the population of Medina? Somewhere around, according to the historians, 4,000 or 5,000 people. But afterwards, it expanded and expanded into Central Asia, into North Africa, Egypt now, and Palestine, and the region of Damascus, not the city of Damascus only, and the Palestine, Lebanon, nowadays Jordan, became affiliated with Islam. So how are you going to administer them? Of course, they had to do practical methods to make them join and become a part of the community. We have to understand this historical context. So how they could do it? They wanted to teach how to pray, how to follow Islamic ethic in practical terms, rather than belief matter. Belief matter needs what? We have to understand this. Belief matter needs personal education. Personal. And every individual must be convinced. And intellectually. You cannot intellectually educate masses at once. You have to just enroll them into the already existing administration. So they did. So what happened? Rules of rituals became more important to teach the people in order to administer them under one administration. So rules of rituals are stated where? In the practical side of the Medina life of the Prophet, not Mecca life. So what happened? Narrations from the prophetic practice became the focus of attention. So hadith studies overtook every other study and started competing with intellectual reasoning. Why do we believe that Quran is eternal? How can we know that Quran is revealed by the Creator? How can we know that the one who claims to be the Prophet is the Prophet really employed by God? What is the virtue? But most of the intellectual people question this. What is the virtue of being a prophet? Readily receiving the message from God or reasoning himself? Which one? I am reasoning myself. I try my best. Muhammad took it freely from God. Who is more valuable? Me, philosophers. That's what was going on among the philosophers in the field of philosophy. Me or the prophet? He is just a ready receiving person. That's what their definition of prophethood was. But we have to question this definition is right or wrong. We have to question. That's open to question. So what they did now, the competition between hadith narration oriented understanding of religion and intellectual activities. As a result of intellectual activities, understanding of the religion. Which one? So what happened? Hadith narrated were when the fiqh rules related interpretation of the of religion widely accepted by the people. So very famous scholar, for example, used to write extensively on intellectual activities, which are called philosophical that time activities, turned into writing what? No.
They claim that
In order to satisfy the requirements of the public people, so they wrote, if you do this ethical subjects, if you do this better, if you perform more prayers, it's better for you, and if you learn how to recite the Quran, it's better for you. Of course, the shift also took place within the intellectually engaging scholars as well. So the intellectually questioning side of the tradition was overshadowed by fiqh rules. So education system wanted to produce new elements in order to continue the peace and law and peace, or the peace and order in the society, by calling the people to come together, act together as a society rather than individual satisfactions. Right? And the kings loved it because it helped their administration controlling the community, society. So the more religious, the better, the easier to control in the name of religion. Kings did not necessarily believe themselves and practice themselves. We know lots of kings did not practice rituals, but supported the education in fiqh matters because it helped his sultanate, his throne, to perpetuate. Continue. So as if it matched. The general public find it difficult to think. King find it very practical for his ruling. All intellectual activities died away. So as a result, now what is left to us, what we have inherited now? Fiqh religion, rule. Judaism is based on fiqh religion. Actually, Judaism is nothing but fiqh religion, not theology at all. Christianity has been struggling in order to justify his theology, Trinity, for centuries upon centuries, over almost 2,000 people, years, 2,000 years, didn't come to a really concluding and completing conclusion. But Islam is open, waiting for investigation. Quranic teaching, 2/3 of the Quran was revealed in Meccan period. And Meccan period didn't have any rituals, rules for rituals. Yeah? Even the word salah is a general word, not the ritualistic practice of salah in the Meccan period of the Quran. So 2/3 of the Quran was thrown into negligence, oblivion. Forget about this. Because we are Muslims, how are we going to deal with our practical problems now? How am I going to handle with this society? What's going on now still is the same. And in the Muslim world, can you show me any Muslim world whose administration is concerned with belief matters? In educating people's intellect and satisfying them with a satisfactory answer. So Islam is an orphan now, without any defense in this world by anyone. It means the Quran is an orphan, left orphan. That's what the Quran says. It itself says. The Prophet complained in the figurative speech of the Quran. Prophet complained to God that, look, oh God, this people of mine, which is called community, which is called Ummah, left the Quran to immigrate, go away. Yeah, mahjur, closed, and nothing to do with me anymore. It means externalized. That's what the Quran itself says as well. So this is the claim of the Prophet now. So what we understand from it, we have to be extremely careful not to use any unquestioned and substantiated concept to build reasoning based on this unsubstantiated concept. Definitely, in our public presentation of religion. While you are doing your personal ritualistic, keep it for yourself. Okay, as you do it, as you feel comfortable. But when you open up to the public, for example, when you give a sermon in the mosque, What is the definition of the sermon or the Friday prayer is? There are many others, but as far as our subject is concerned, the place where the community expected to get together must be open. It means regardless of one's faith, one's affiliation, one's identity, everybody can come in. It means what? Tell me. This place must be public. Excellent. If it is public, a young 16 years old boy or girl can't say that, look, my teacher taught me this in the, but I hear that some religious people say something else opposite to it. Let me go and listen to them. A 16 years old, young, innocent, investigative guy, person, girl or boy, doesn't matter, comes and listens to the sermon. No one can prevent it. Because if you prevent it, your Friday prayer is not valid according to the rule. It must be open. Look at the contradiction. So what we do now, we speak to the people there who already accepted their belief. 16 years old person says and confirms his or her rejection of religion because it is biased, not open-minded. So, big responsibility. Because you have already believing people be consoled. But a new generation confirmed his atheistic idea because of your speech. How can you forgive yourself? How do you expect God to forgive you to present his religion to the new generation in a nonsensical way? Isn't that a big responsibility? Now, for example, we are speaking here, okay? So I say, mashallah, I understand that people here are on wisdom. Say, mashallah, you are saved, man, don't worry. So, but be careful, your responsibilities. What are they? You have to do this and this and this. Right? Do you know how to read the Quran? Or you have to learn how to read the Quran? Do you question the Quran? What? Aren't you a believer? Aren't you a Muslim? So this limited mind, the rhetoric you must have heard 1,000 times, I did. This limited mind cannot understand the God's word. So if you believe in Islam, you have to follow what the Quran says. Follow in which sense? Belief matters are imitated. Ritualistics must be copy-paste. Right? When you read almost any Meccan period revealed verse of the Quran, no one is excited. When you start speaking about any fiqh matters and referring to the Quran, you will see all the scholars become alarmed. You cannot say this. It is bid'ah. It is innovation. It is this. It is not. There is another hadith. There is another hadith. Arguments about the authenticity of the hadith narrations. The one says the hadith narrations are all trash. And why do you say that? The other one says hadith narrations must be solid. And, they are really scrutinized with sincere scholars. What are you doing, man? The new generation is becoming atheist and atheist by listening to your arguments. Idiotic arguments. Do you think it makes sense? So isn't that the reality of this world? Come on, we have to be honest. We have to admit what is missing in us. So look at this man says, Quran mentioning creation and invention. It means How do we read the Risale or his writings? All the commas, most of the commas and meaning, sorry? That is explanation. That is, I mean, it means creation. What I mean by creation is invention. And Quran confirms that only God, the one. How do we understand the one?
Absolute.
Infinite, absolute. Not the number one. Of course, it is obvious. But when we say one, we have to be aware that we are not using a number. It means something not of the nature of the universe. You cannot describe it. A unique one, which has its own existence by its own self-subsisting quality. That means one. So don't use the word God is one in a public sense. Never. When you say God is one, what do you mean by it? How do you know? How did you count it? Because it doesn't make sense. One doesn't make sense. That's why in the Quran, ahad doesn't mean one. Yeah, this is a unique one, which is not, as the Quran says, God is ahad, one, explains, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. It means you cannot liken, use a simile between this one and anything of the universe. What does it mean? If it is not of the anything of the universe, by its nature, it is
Absolutely.
absolute. So never say God is one. It's misleading. It doesn't make sense. How do you know God is one? Did you go up and counted it? So this mind of this, the historical context of the 21st century of the young generation questioning people cannot accept the word God is one. Translation of ahad. Impossible. Well, it contradicts the teachings of the Quran, by the way. The Quran says God is one, that is, God is samad. It means he doesn't need anything. He is not dependent on anything. That is, he didn't inherit anything from anyone. And the creator of the universe has not inherited anything from the universe and has not transmitted, bequeathed its quality to anything in the universe. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. What we translate it as if we are talking a young lady. It is ridiculous. He has not given birth by anything, and he has not given birth to anything.
How should we understand wahid?
Doesn't matter. Ahad. So not one. Wahid doesn't matter. Again, wahid in a universal, but depends on the Quran definition. Quran speaks to human beings according to their view. If you look at the universe in a general, you have to understand that the creator of this universe must be wahid in the distinction of the Quran, depending on your perspective. If your perspective, if you are specifically, for example, concentrating on the existence of an ant, for example, who can be the creator of this? And the Quran says, to make the distinction between, for human beings having different perspectives, ahad. So wahid and ahad, depending on the perspective of the people, the addressee, reader of the Quran, change its meaning, but ultimately both means absolute. Because وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ is the further explanation of ahad. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Right? So it cannot be like any equal to any of the universe. It means not of the nature of the universe. So we shouldn't speak in a ridiculous way, saying that God has begotten. Oh, are you talking about the young, fertile lady or what? Giving birth or being born by a mother or something. What are you talking about? Of course, this is the way that he has not inherited. The creator must have not inherited anything from the rest of the universe. And he has not transferred his quality, absolute quality, to anything within the universe again. What we have to have now? A completely abstract notion of the absolute being necessarily existing. And I cannot describe this necessarily existing being with any terminology which is valid within the universe. We have to be very careful about this point, which is valid within the universe, right? For example, within the universe, in order to grow a tree in your garden, you have to plant a seed. This is valid within the order of the universe. But if you say the creator of the universe needs the seed to create the tree, no, it is not, because by definition, creator is self-subsistent, right? Must be. If it is not so, if the creator wasn't self-subsistent, then for me to explain the existence of anything within the universe becomes impossible. Do you get it? So I have to say, how can I explain the existence of the universe? That's my first religious question. What is the first religious question? How can I explain my existence? This is religious question, not how can I make my prayer. It's not a religious question, it's a practical question. Practical as far as the social context of the religious life. But foundation, so we need to revive this we need to revive this intellectual questioning of existence and coming to a solid conclusion for ourselves, which is convincing. Otherwise, you cannot imitate the Quran, you cannot claim to have the belief. For yourself, none of my business, but you cannot speak in this way in a public arena. You cannot. It's a big responsibility. It is an enormous responsibility, which is misrepresenting the religion of, or guidance, misrepresenting the guidance of the creator of this universe. It is an insult. It is a very big responsibility. Every word you use to another person must be carefully scrutinized. Does it make sense to this person who is investigating? You don't need to speak to those people who don't investigate. Why? They already keep their, whatever their cultural heritage. They never question this cultural heritage. They are not going to do that. So leave them alone. None of your business. Are they saved? Are they right? None of my business. Take care of your responsibility. Personal responsibility. Right? Personal responsibility. Don't pass judgment about any other people at all. So never speak to any person taking for granted that his belief is established. You have to start always from scratch. How do you explain your existence? Start from here. Every discussion must start from here, as it is here now. Now, the confirms that only God, the one. What do you do? That continue this.
Has creative power.
Okay. How do you know that only the absolute being has created creative power? What was the creative power? Innovative power. Innovative power. How do you understand this? So the text continues. Please.
Causes are only veils before the divine power.
Okay, that's too much. Causes are only veils. Are they? Are they? What do you mean by veil? Anyone? Anyone? What do you mean by veil?
Obstacles?
Veil. Causes are veils, what the author claims. And claims that Quran bases its argument on this reasoning. Yeah? So the author speaks on behalf of Quran now. It's a very dangerous thing to do. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do, but we have to be very careful and consistent in our reasoning. So causes are veils. What do we understand from it?
Generally speaking, there's something behind a veil, usually.
So there is some reality behind it, but what you see as causes, but he uses the already existing vocabulary of the century, 19th century causes, yeah? Excuse me, not 19th, 20th century.
Causality.
Yeah, causality, yeah. So this causality is in the culture. So he uses it because it is the historical context. That's what we learn from the Quran. You have to speak to people according to their historical context, right? So it doesn't argue about the causality because people are imbued or injected in their minds the idea that the universe exists within the causal chain. That's the general body of the people have this concept, they know this concept, and they mostly accept it without questioning because it is the reality. That's why they are imposed with this idea by the materialist. They call it in quote unquote scientific interpretation. Religion has nothing to say about it in the culture. Religion is dead. Religion is dead. We have to understand this. So we have to revive this death. So as far as the society's understanding of religion is concerned, it is already stagnant. There is nothing in the universe which is stagnant, but our understanding of religion is. But in creation, nothing. It is a contradiction, by the way. We have to know it. So these people know that the cause. Cause means there is a chain. In the chain, I see that if I do something, another thing occurs. Right? So this author says, according to the teachings of the Quran, if you do something, the simple example you gave what? You gave an example of it.
The seed.
Seed. And if you water the seed grows into a plant, right? So the materialistic mind injected in the minds of the people, saying that, look, if you don't water the seed doesn't grow. If you water the seed grows. So don't you understand that water is the cause of the growth of the plant? Everybody says, now, because there is no further questioning, there is no detailed questioning, yeah, that is what I see. Lack of water, lack of growth. Presence of water, presence of growth. That is how the universe works by itself. So Quran says, no, you are mistaken. You are thinking superficially, according to the author. What? Causes are just not active agents. They are just how the order operates. But the order is not the active agent in the universe. This needs to be established. And according to this order, that's the claim of the Quran, you have to reason. According to the order of the universe, as it is established by the orderer, because order cannot come into existence by itself, because nothing can give existence to itself. We said the first thing is La ilaha. Can you explain that the order came into existence by itself? So it is established, for example, the order of the computer, how it works. Do you think it made itself into a computer? It doesn't make for the human mind. So if the order is like this, in the order, the water is the prior existing thing to the growth of the plant. That is the order. Otherwise, you can question other way around. How? As the Quran says, the plant has such and such qualities, the water has such and such qualities, and the relationship between the plant, growth of the plant, and the qualities of the water does not match, and they contradict. So the Quran encourages people to think further, deeper, on a realistic base as they experience it. So can you see any quality in the water molecule which you could see in the quality of the growth of the plant? Any relationship, any correlation at all? Growth of the plant is a plant, has life, has order itself, in itself, has purpose in itself, definitely, but the water has no quality, no will, no knowledge, no power, no thinking of future, adjustment, no willpower to choose. But it is how it is established. Yeah. For example, the computer works as it is made. Right? Let me see the time. Oh yeah, we are getting closer to the deadline. So you see that there is an order in the existence of the, yeah. If I press a key, something happens. The result is created. Is the result created by the key, or the result is created by the one who made the computer to function in this way? Which one makes sense? Which one? Anybody? You don't know how to speak. Second. Yeah. So it is human logic. So Quran says, oh, look, this is the order. This is called the veil means how the order operates, but you have to question the result, whether this result can come from its prior existent, which is called cause. So in the universe, in fact, but this is not our subject, the time is not enough. We have to be very careful. We don't see, in fact, we have to think deeply. We don't see cause and effect change. We see only effect. Why? Because of our memory of the previous existence, we invent a cause of our experience. But what we see is only what exists, comes into existence. It doesn't have a prior existence, because every moment we experience what you have been talking about it. Sorry? Invention, new existence. So every moment we are observing effect. Causes our the remnants of our previous experience. So this matches the understanding of late interpretations of the matter by the materialist philosophers. So, but as a result of their experiments, they say the universe is coming into existence unexpectedly. Yeah? So they say there's no real cause that it will cause an atom to come into existence? You cannot show it. You cannot guarantee the existence of tomorrow, for example. The very famous, simple, famous, well-known example, you cannot guarantee that tomorrow the sun will rise. There is no point of guarantee. There is no reference point in the universe to guarantee that tomorrow the sun will exist. Show me what? So materially show me in the universe there is something which guarantees that the sun will rise tomorrow. So this is what we experience in the universe. And the human logic says, oh yeah, this causal chain understanding is a kind of hypnothesis. It means, just playing magic. So as it appears to be, but it is not reality when I question it, when I use my human intelligence. So,
But we need it.
which one?
This hypnosis.
Why?
Because it's preventing the mind from drawing wrong conclusion.
But you should negate it. That's what you are. But so you are experiencing only the effect, not the causes. Causes your inherited experience from yesterday or a moment before. So we don't need it. But how the universe is, that's what my reality. How I can see the universe, how I have, which kind of capacity I have. That's so simple. That's so simple. So carry on now. Causes are only veils before the
Divine power.
divine power means, what does it mean? It's a religious language. We said that we shouldn't use religious language. Creative power, which is not of the nature of universe. It means absolute, an absolute being, an absolute being. Yeah, an absolute being must be. So an absolute being, and
Grandeur.
it is grandeur means what? You cannot really measure its qualities at all. When we say God is great, Allahu Akbar in Arabic, so it means you cannot compare the Creator with anything. Why? Anything is in the universe, and I'm asking the source of existence of the universe because it exists. And where did it come from? It cannot create itself, so therefore there must be an external agent. This external agent cannot be described in terms of the universe. External agent for the existence of the universe. Do you understand? It's a very simple language, very simple logic, and everybody can understand this. Even really, believe me, you can explain this to a 13, 14 years old child, teenager, early teenager. Unfortunately, we don't use it because we love being appreciated by our fellow religious group. So we feel comfortable. Look, everybody admired my knowledge. I know religion. Everybody admired, but at the cost of what? New generation become atheist. We have to tremble to me. I'm very, very, very conscious of this matter. I decided not to. So, to prevent the mind, the grandeur, the absolute qualities of the Creator, or the one who is self-sustaining being. So it means nothing to do with the universe. And to prevent
The mind from drawing wrong conclusions.
now, yeah, sorry.
About the all-holy divine.
So we have to prepare the mind of the people. Yeah, we have to. This is as the author says, this is the Quranic teaching. So we have to go and see the Quran whether it is true or not. Yeah, what the Quran is saying. It is claimed here by the author. Quran's main teaching is based on this argument. So we have to do that. But for the moment, we have to understand what benefit I can get from this argument. So we have to prepare the mind from drawing, so prevent the mind. It means prepare them not to draw wrong conclusions about the all holy divine being. It means absolute being. Yes? So the creator, when you say the creator, you have to make it very clearly defined. So, it's getting late. About the divine being by, okay?
Seeing with a superficial view the hand of his power involved in mundane affairs.
So the superficial view is what? What is the superficial view? The God is so supreme that cannot be understood and also cannot deal with these mundane affairs. So in order to be a religious man, so-called religious man, you shouldn't get involved in mundane. So God also is not involved in mundane. So what we have to do now in this universe, we should be concerned with the eternal life, which is promised by this book. What is your evidence? The book says. Book says so. Do you understand? So as a result, the main focus of the people became what? Alienated from using the universe as their source of intellectual activity and conclusion and belief. Therefore, belief in what? What is the cause of existence? So this is what alienated people's mind is alienated from getting involved in questioning the nature of universe and existence, and therefore they also alienated the creator from dealing with the mundane matters. Everything is eternally. So if you ask an ordinary Muslim, say, why do you pray? Because I'm going to be rewarded in the hereafter. Nothing to the here. And in the hereafter, I'm going to. Why do you do that? Because my religion says there is an hereafter. If you don't do it, you will be punished eternally. I don't want to be punished. Correct that you don't want to be punished. But is it a reason really to run away from punishment in the hereafter, which is unknown to you? Why? And that's what they say. Our scholars say. Our priests said, our imams said. This is ridiculous. So I think we have to refresh our minds how to reason about the legitimacy of the claims of the Quran and whether we can confirm it or not. No pre-accepted concept that we should employ. Never ever use the vocabulary which says, for example, we are Muslims. Why? Because we are Muslims, demographically. 1.2 billion people are Muslims. None of my business. Who are you? Who are you yourself? And Quran is our book. What? Who are you? Why is it your book? Why? We are Muslims. Muslim population accepts the Quran. Muhammad is our prophet. Our prophet. Is it your prophet? What do you mean by prophet? Prophet, man, don't you know prophet? It is in the culture. The concept is in the culture, but no justification. Like this. So we have to do some our religious duty. Why? Because our religious duty is culture. It is nothing to do with religion. We shouldn't cheat ourselves. Alhamdulillah, we finished the paragraph. Alhamdulillah. Any question? I think you have it.
I have a question about the last paragraph here when it says the causes are only veils before the source of existence, which must be absolute to prevent the mind from drawing wrong conclusions. So I guess what I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, by virtue of what makes a cause is a veil, is that it looks to or it hides something else that is beyond itself.
No, excuse me, not hide.
Or something, it's looks to something else, waiting for the onlooker to uncover it.
So if you don't question the source of existence of the order, now, because of this lack of concern that you should have done it, you should have done it. If you don't do that, you omit this step and falling into the cause as the cause of existence of it is effect as you observe it, in the course of time. So you fall into this mistake, and it becomes an excuse for you to justify that causes are the creator of them. So veil, as if for human reasoning, which is superficial reasoning, not really questioning the origin of any existence, then it becomes an obstacle if you omit the first step. That's what happens. That's why it becomes a veil for you. In fact, it is not a veil. It is in the following paragraph. Or further on, I remember before. Yeah, in the following paragraph. Next week we will study what? The mirror example. So it will become clearer, hopefully, next week. Yeah. So we will study that. Everything has two aspects in the following paragraph. What do you mean by two aspects? So one aspect, if you don't use your intellectual quality in the right way as it's supposed to be used, then you fall into one aspect which is not correct. But you will understand that it's not correct. If you really go through the first stage in an appropriate way, according to your the capacity of your intellectual quality, then you will follow the other aspect. So how it works, we will study next week. So to be followed next week. Assalamu alaikum. So there was no question by the streamers, so we didn't encourage them. Well, that wasn't enough. We should get used to that, actually.
So we should say science can't discover causality. It can just discover effects of material.
The science is
Cannot discover causality between materials. Just can discover effects between materials.
no. I don't know exactly what you mean, but since the time is up, of course, causality and causation are different things. So, what the people are doing here, observing how the things are coming into existence. But what they do, they claim to get the answer, not how the things are happening within a set order, the source of existence to this order. It means in that field, they call it causation, not causality. Causation, it means the water is causing the plant to grow. But what they do, how the order of growth is taking place. But they cannot do it physically in the lab, the source of existence of this event. But they interpret it personally, because religion has nothing to say about it. The field is free. You can say anything and it goes, people buy it. People buy into it. Why? Because there is no alternative. So the alternative is follow your father or mother or grandfather. That's it. Grandfather was praying, you should pray as well. That's it. Because you are a Muslim, because your parents, you are born into a Muslim family, aren't you? So that's why I am raised. What religion do you follow? Usually in this culture, what you hear? In this culture, you hear, I am raised in a Muslim family or Christian family, it means my religious identity is Christianity or Islam. So, but in the Muslim rhetoric, they don't use, they don't say even I am, they say we are, because they have no personality, individual personality. We are Muslims. If you say, which religion do you follow? I come from a Muslim country, let's say Egypt, and we are Muslims. Look, not I am Muslim for my own conclusion. No one can say this. Why? This aspect of religion has disappeared, not functioning anymore. We have to revive it, at least for ourselves, inshallah. So, seeing the things how they are coming doesn't mean that the explanation of it. For example, water, sorry, I'll take it, the cause and effect and cause, actually. What we experience, effect and cause. We see plant is growing, and we remember that I poured water. So it must be because of water that I put. In another experiment, the plant is not growing. We remember that I didn't put water. That is the superficial understanding of how the things are happening. But if I conclude the language, which anybody who deals with science and speaks in terms of science has to be extremely careful with this language. Now, the water is the cause of existence of the growth. Why? Because if you don't use it, the result effect doesn't come, doesn't happen. So this one is important when we say that you are such and such, you are like this because you were born into a Muslim community. You are like this, maybe your subject is something to do with this. Your character is like this because you were treated by your parents in this way. It is completely materialistic understanding of existence, and it has a value. It has a value notion in it. It means the parents' behavior has affected you. Yep. You have free will now. You have to deal with your already given data, given conditions. No excuse of going back to parent. What is my condition now? What am I going to do? Yes? But I am under the influence of, yes, that's right. But you have to use your free will. I think in the piece that I sent you, I touched upon the element. So we have to be careful the description of the event, not turning it into definition of the event. Description of the event, we have to say, look, I am watering the plant, it is growing. That's the description of the event. Interpretation, definition of the event is water is growing the tree. From description going into interpretation or definition of the event, sort of defining the phenomena in an equation. Water grows the plant. That's an equation, isn't it? This is equal to this. So we have to be careful when we use this language. That is what we observe. But we have to take the result, the effect, question the qualities of it, and go back to the cause, as we call it, cause, and analyze its qualities and make the comparison, see if there is a parallel between them, compatibility between them or not. Do you follow this? So whoever does this never can find any compatibility at all. So causal chain is or cannot be causation. Observation cannot be explanation. So observation is what we observe, but human intellect is given to human beings to question it. Right? First, what we did today, we should never use preconceived religious concepts. We should never use preconceived materialistic concepts either. We have to question. Right? We should never present the Quran or the religion in terms of consoling general public who call themselves Muslims. No. But are we going to insult them? No. Are we going to disturb them? No. What I have to do, any statement I should make must be consistent within itself. That's it. If happens that people don't like it, let them like it. Let them not like it. None of your business. So you have to say, okay, I'm not going to speak to you if you don't want to listen to me. So stop addressing already existing cultural Muslims. Why? They are not going to learn anything new from you. So what they require you in order to applaud you, or, I don't know, give you a status as an alim status, a knowledgeable person status, why do you get this false title? You are not. You are speaking to them as they are, as they expect you to be. So you are the slave of the audience. You are not guiding the audience like the imams who are, or the priests who are paid by the community. They have to satisfy the community in order to get the payment. Like those people who speak on TV or something, what do they do in order to get the payment? And they make the rate higher. But how can you make it? By addressing the general expectations of the general public. So you can get the rate. It is selling out Allah's religion, God's religion. It is the most treasure that we can commit. Selling out God's religion in order to get rating. God forbid. God forbid, we have to be extremely careful. It's a very severe subject, very serious subject. We have to think about it. Everybody should consult his conscience. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. حرمة السر سورة الفاتحة.